In the early 1900s, New York was a city full of hope, industry, and secrets. Behind the crowded streets and growing skyline, there lived a man who seemed ordinary, quiet, polite, even forgettable. But hidden beneath that harmless exterior was something truly horrifying. This is the story of Albert Fish, one of the most disturbing criminals in history. Albert Fish was born in 1870. From a young age, his life was marked by instability. His father died when he was just a child, and his mother, unable to care for him, sent him to an orphanage. But this was no safe haven. The orphanage was a place of harsh discipline and abuse. Years later, Fish would admit that the punishments he endured there shaped the dark desires that would haunt him for the rest of his life. As Fish grew older, he appeared to live a normal life. He married, he had children, he worked ordinary jobs. To neighbors, he was just another quiet man trying to get by. But inside, something sinister was growing. Fish developed dangerous and disturbing obsessions, urges he struggled to control but ultimately chose not to. Throughout the 1920s, children began disappearing. At first, there was no clear pattern, no obvious suspect, just a growing sense of fear spreading through families. Behind the scenes, Fish was traveling, moving from place to place, hiding in plain sight. Then came the case that would shock the nation. A young girl named Grace Budd went missing after being lured away under false promises. Months passed with no answers, until a letter arrived. The letter was horrifying. It was written by Albert Fish himself, detailing, in chilling and graphic language, what he had done. It wasn't just a confession. It was a glimpse into a deeply disturbed mind. The envelope was plain. Nothing about it seemed unusual. Inside was a handwritten message from a stranger. At first, it seemed almost polite. The writer introduced himself as an older man who claimed he had met Grace years earlier. But as the letter continued, the tone changed. The stranger described, in disturbing detail, how he had tricked Grace and taken her away. He admitted that the name he gave the family was fake. He confessed that everything had been planned. The letter was horrifying, not only because of what it said, but because of how calm the writer sounded. There was no panic, no regret, only cold, chilling detail. Albert Fish's letter to Grace Budd's mother is extremely graphic. The section most often referenced, and the part that led directly to his arrest, began with him reminding the family of the day he visited their home. On Sunday, June the 3rd, 1928, I called on you at 406 W15 St. Brought you pot cheese, strawberries. We had lunch. Grace sat in my lap and kissed me. He then admitted that he had already decided to abduct Grace under the pretense of taking her to a birthday party. Later in the letter, he described luring her to an empty house in Westchester where he attacked and killed her. The letter ended with him claiming he ate her body over several days. The letter shocked investigators. They had never seen anything like it. The man who wrote it clearly wanted to be known. He wanted the Budd family to read every word. And without realizing it, he had made a mistake. The envelope had been mailed from a boarding house. Detectives rushed there and began asking questions. The landlady remembered a quiet older man who had recently checked out. She remembered one thing in particular. He always carried an old gray suitcase, and she knew his name, Albert Fish. Police tracked him down to a small house in New York. When officers arrived, they found an elderly man sitting calmly inside. He didn't run, he didn't fight. Instead, he quietly admitted who he was. During questioning, Fish confessed that he had written the letter. He admitted it was meant for Grace Budd's mother. Investigators later said the letter was the key that finally exposed him. For years, Albert Fish had hidden in plain sight, a quiet man, an ordinary face in a crowded city. But one letter, one terrible letter, ended it all. In court, Fish showed little emotion. He spoke calmly, almost casually about his actions. Even experienced investigators were shaken. The man they saw wasn't just a criminal. He was something far more unsettling, a person who had lived among them, unnoticed. Albert Fish was eventually convicted and sentenced to death. In 1936, his life came to an end, but the fear and fascination surrounding his case never truly disappeared. The story of Albert Fish is not just about one man. It's a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous monsters don't look like monsters at all. They blend in, they wait, and by the time they're discovered, it's already too late.